everyone. In just a second, I'm going to be introducing author Kristy Woodson Harvey, and we're going to be talking about her newest book, The Secret to Southern Charm. Now, this is book 2 of her Peachtree Bluff series, and I didn't read, the first book, and it didn't matter. It was such an amazing book. I want to go back and read the first one. And this is part of a trilogy. She's going to be writing a third book. I'm going to ask her about when that's coming out because I definitely want to read it. And this is the perfect beach book, okay? If you are headed to the beach, take this book. You will not be sorry. And everyone, here is Kristy. Hi, everyone. I am so excited because I am speaking with Kristy Woodson Harvey about her newest book, The Secret to Southern Charm. And I'm acting like I'm holding it up, and I don't. I have it on my phone. But everybody saw a picture of it before we started talking because I did a little intro, and they got to see this beautiful cover. And I am so excited that we finally get to talk.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that this book had come out in April. Right?
Yes. April 3rd. It was a little bit early this year. I usually tend to come out late April, early May, but it was a little early this year, but it worked out well because it was spring break and I go on kind of long book tours. So it's nice when they come out on spring break because my son can go with me for the first week and we don't have to miss any school. So that's kind of nice.
And you look like such a baby to have a son like us.
I'm going to be 33 on Monday.
Happy birthday. And let's see, Monday is the what?
16th.
16th. So you're a Cancer child. I have 2 children that are Cancer children. So I'm very familiar. But anyway, this book, it's a second in a series. It's a trilogy. I loved it. I could not tell. As a matter of fact, as I'm reading it, I kept thinking, I wonder what the first one was about. I couldn't even tell that there was a first one, but which is awesome.
I'm so glad to hear that because that was something that I, really worried about and thought about a lot. And I did sort of think okay, can people read this one without reading the first one? Because there is something that you're kind of thrust into. I feel like that is a big secret that's sort of revealed throughout the course of the first book. So I'm really happy to hear you say that because, there are a lot of people that had just read The Secret to Southern Charm as a standalone. So that's good.
Yeah. I mean, you always want to make it that way, but I'm definitely going back to read the first one. So,
oh, thank you.
I have to. Now after this, I'm so invested in these people. I have to go back.
Email me your address and I'll send you one when we get off the call.
Oh, that would be awesome. And I can't wait to read the third one because, of course, we know there's going to be, because you said trilogy. So it's of course, is that going to come out next year?
Yes, I think next spring. I don't have a firm pub date or anything yet, but next spring is a pretty safe bet.
Okay. So this book starts off, in the military. And I was a military wife.
You were?
Yes.
Oh, it makes me nervous.
I was. And I'm a lot older than you. You could be my daughter. But anyway, back in the day, I was a military wife. My husband was in the Marine Corps. We lived on Andrews Air Force Base. And when I was pregnant with my third daughter, it was during my third child, who was my first daughter, it was during the Persian Gulf War. And so I ended up having to drive off base because all the hospital and medics were all gone. So I couldn't give birth on base. So I had to go outside of base and I ended up driving up here, which is 3 hours. But anyway, it was just a mess situation for me. And then he was on standby, constant standby. So we lived in this couple of months of me being pregnant, having 2 little boys. And so I'm reading this and I'm like, Kristy, how did you know? How did you know
that was so funny. So you had 2 little boys just like Sloan.
Except for I was pregnant, but very pregnant. But, it was still, And when you're on that constant standby, it's a phone call and you're given 4 hours.
Yeah.
There's no time, so you live in that constant standby, and it was horrible. So I can tell you, it was the stress, but
I can't even imagine. Well, I mean, I tried to imagine, obviously, but that was a big deal for me. That was a hard hurdle for me, thinking about writing this military wife and wanting to get that right. And where I live in North Carolina, there are a lot of military bases all around us. So I have friends that are military wives, and I know a lot of military wives, and I really wanted to kind of capture that and get that right. But this was definitely the hardest book I've ever written for that reason. I just kept rewriting it and rewriting it and rewriting it because I just wanted to make sure that it was right. I didn't want to, and of course, everyone has completely different experiences. Half the people that read something think, well, that's completely could never happen. And half the people that read it think, oh my gosh, that's right on. So, you always sort of are living in that area where that everything you write is not going to resonate with everyone. But I really did want to try to kind of capture what you must feel as a military wife and sort of all those emotions and all those things that must be so, so difficult. So I can't imagine, what you guys did. That's incredible.
Yeah. Well, and then, I had 2 sons who were in the military. Those 2 sons grew up and went into the military, and my second son ended up going to Iraq. So, and then I lived with that
every day
stress.
Every day. I can't even imagine. That would be even worse probably because I, have a son also. And, it's just very difficult to think about your children, being in a war zone and not really knowing where they are and what they're doing. And that's, you're amazing.
Yeah. So when I was reading it, you hit it dead on. Like, I was right there. I was like transported back to that time. It was a little bit different because it was her husband that was missing in Iraq and all that stuff. But anyway, he's home. He's a vet now, so it's all okay.
Thank goodness, all's well that ends well, right?
Yeah. But what I loved about this story is the mother-daughter. It's like the mother-daughter, mother-daughter, like the 3 generations of mothers and daughters. I have 2 daughters, and of course I had a mother, and so it was I loved it. It was like the emotions and going through like their relationships. And I didn't have a sister though. Do you have a sister?
I don't. I'm actually an only child. So people are always like, you had sisters and you're an only child? That's always the thing that people are so shocked about. But my mom has 3 sisters, and I don't think I knew this, but I think growing up, I was always kind of like studying their interactions and like how they were to each other. And I thought it was so interesting that they grew up in the same family, and they're all different and they all have very distinct relationships with each other. But then of course they have a lot of similarities too. So when I was writing these sisters, I really wanted to write sisters who had very distinct relationships with each other and who, grew up in the same family, but really turned out very differently in a lot of ways, but then also sort of have this kind of similar threads that bond them. And I love writing those multi-generational stories. And I think there's so many people right now that are kind of in that sandwich generation where they're taking care of children and they're taking care of parents. And Ansley is very much in that world where she's so close to her daughters and they're kind of like her primary focus, but then all of a sudden, her mother needs her too. And so I was interested just in how women do that and what that's like. And so I really enjoyed writing the storyline, and I'm very close with my mom and my grandmother, and really, pulled that all into the story, of course.
Wow. It was so much. My 2 daughters are in their 20s, and it's like it's like relearning how to be a mom again. Because you're a mom in one way, and then they become adults and they have their own children. And my one daughter's on her 3rd child. And, so it's like, it's always a learning process. And I feel like she was in the middle and she was trying to figure out how to learn to be the daughter and the mother. And, so yeah. I love that. And I know a lot of people, I read the reviews. So many people loved how you did this. And it is shocking that you're an only child. It's shocking that you could tap into that.
Well, it's funny that you say that too, because my mom always says that. She says it's hard to parent growing children because you're always a mother and you always want to put your opinion in, but sometimes you can't. And I think especially in this book, maybe more even than in Slightly South of Simple too, you see Ansley like struggle with that. What do I say and how much do I interfere? And, I really want to say this, but it's maybe not really my place, those types of things. And so I'm very interested in that, that sort of dynamic, because I'm still in the space where I'm mommy and I'm in charge.
enjoy that stage. It's an awesome stage of life.
Right, right. He has to do what I say or go to timeout, and Ansley is not in that situation, so.
No, she's not. And I have 6 children. Okay, so
Wow.
I'm always in a state like I wish like some of my adult children. I'm like, can't I put them in timeout? I guess I can't put them in timeout. Just can't. I want to.
Well, they deserve it, right?
They deserve it sometime. But let me give this quote to everybody. And I went back and I saw that I'm not the only one who picked this quote. As a matter of fact, there are at least 10 quotes in this book. I have them saved on my phone because I kept taking pictures of them from my Kindle. But talking about the mother part, it says, you say, sometimes being a mother isn't about having to fix it. Sometimes the best thing a mother can be is there at all. And I just love that, because sometimes
trying to edit that line. They kept trying to edit that line, and I was like, no, that is the line. Do not change a word. That is the line. It was really funny. But I love that
because
line
sometimes
too.
And not even like, when I was feeling Ansley's heart, because sometimes being there is not being there. Sometimes that is the being there, like when to know to step in and when to know not to step in. And it's a fine line. And sometimes wanting to know whether they, like what they're expecting, like, do they want me to step in or do they want me to back off? Or do they want, it's a constant, like, it's just, it's a balance. It's like walking.
Well, and with 6 children, I mean, I would think you're always dealing with some sort of at least mini crisis on a daily basis.
Yes, you got my heart. But anyway, so another thing I love about you that I have to tell everyone is that you are a tall poppy writer. And and the thing, one of my dreams, like, how people dream, like, I want to go to the Oscars, I want to go to the Emmys. I'm like, I want to go to a tall poppy conference. Can I get invited to a tall poppy conference?
I'm so glad to hear that. I mean, that's great. I mean, I could probably make that happen one day,
I love you guys.
There's not a lot of wishes I can grant, but,
I love you guys so much. I've interviewed so many of you, and I love you guys. Like, you're all so, like, helpful to each other. Like, I love the community. And I've interviewed some that were in England, some authors that were in England, and they'll come over for book tours, and then you guys, like, just, like, surround them with love. And it's so, and, and I'm sure vice versa. Like, if you went over there and, it's a community of women that you just know wherever you are, like, and if another one's there, they're going to be at your book signing, at your, whatever. And then you have this amazing, like, conference, and I'm like, how do I get invited to that conference? And so I would be surrounded by all the people I love.
It's so fun, like, just to have that kind of group, that support system behind you, because I mean, this, I mean, you're doing this too. It's, in a lot of ways, you're just always kind of feeling it out. It's like how we were talking about Skype a minute ago, and it's how, like, every time you think you've got it down, something changes. I feel like it's the same with being an author. Every time you're like, oh yeah, I got this, it's like some huge thing happens and everything changes. And it's so nice to have a support system of people who have, like, been there and have done it, and who can, help support your new release and come to your signings and all of those things. And it's been a real gift for me. Anne Garvin, who's the founder of the Poppies, was one of the first authors that I really met, and it was before I had even published anything. And I met her, and we just hit it off right away. And a few weeks later, she emailed me. It was right after I'd gotten my first book deal, and she said, I'm starting this group called the Tall Poppy Writers, and it's going to be about women, and we're all going to support each other's books. And I was like, wow, because this can be kind of a competitive world. So to have all these people who sort of have your back and are helping bolster you, and I really feel like, I think they would all agree too. I think when we all support each other's work, it just helps everyone. It's not, oh, I'm supporting your book and it's taking away from my book, because, as you well know, I mean, readers read books. It's not like they're only going to read my book or they're only going to read your book. They're going to read my book, and then they're going to read your book, and then they want to know what to read next, and so I think that's
exactly. I know. I feel like the world wants to make it competitive, and have lists and, all that kind of stuff. But really, like, I know as a reader, and real readers, and there are many more, because I've met so many readers like me, kind of think you're the only person. But, we're reading, a book a day. We're reading 2 books a week. We're reading, so it's like when we want to read, when I do this, like, beach book series, which is kind of, in your book will be included. And it's like, we don't, they don't just take a book to the beach.
Right. Right.
That is not real life.
Like 7 in your week vacation. Yeah, no, for sure. So no, it's been a real gift to be a part of that group of women and just to learn from them. And, if I ever have a question, and I mean, I remember, I'm getting a little better now, but, when my first book would come out, like, I'd get a bad review and, you'd go tell the poppies and then I'll be like, that is not true and you're amazing. And you need that. You need your friends to lie to you. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but it's true because you're like, I want to defend myself. Can I write back? Can I put a defense in there?
No, you cannot write that. No. I remember one time my husband being like, somebody gave you a bad review on Amazon. He was so shocked. I was like, well, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's going to happen. He was like, well, I mean, I want to say something. I was like, you may not.
No, one of the Tall Poppy writers I was talking, I don't remember which one it was, but she got a 1 star because they didn't like the name of the restaurant in the book. And she was like, I'll change it. Like, I'm not attached to it. Like,
right. It cracks me up, like, the things, and the best is, like, sometimes like, you'll get a 1 star and it'll be like, this was the best book I read all year. And you're like, oh no, you hit the wrong thing. And you want to be like, oh, okay, this is bad. But, whatever, it's fine. It's so funny though. It's so funny.
Yeah, and it is. But I'm just so happy. Like, I'm so happy that I got to meet most of like, I go through it to make sure that I've hit all of you, because as you have books coming out, because I love you guys so much and I love that community, and you're just also such beautiful women. But anyway, when I saw that, I was like, I
appreciate you having me and all of your support, because I mean, that is huge. Like, we're nowhere without people who are, people can't read books they don't know about, as, a publisher always says. So it's amazing to have people who, support your books. So thank you. I appreciate you. And I know all the rest of the Tall Poppies do too.
Thank you. Well, I wanted to tell everybody that the book they can see the book. I put the cover up on when I edit it. So they are going to be looking at it. And I love the cover and I love the title. I mean, when I saw this, when it came out in April, I mean, right away I was aware of it and I was like, I love this. I have to read this book. So, I mean, it's such a cool cover, and I hope you had, like, I hope you love it too, because we love it. And everybody
I do. I really do love it. I really do. I love the cover, and it took a few iterations to get it right, but I really love the cover and I love the title, and it's been a great release, and I couldn't ask for more. It's been wonderful.
Well, that's awesome. I will have all of Kristy's links listed underneath here, especially the big one that says Amazon that you just hit and you can go and buy it in one click, which I do all the time. So I know that button, but Kristy, please, when the next book comes, call me. I'll read it early. We'll do the interview because I can't wait.
Absolutely will. I absolutely will. I'll let you know. Hopefully I'll have advanced copies sometime. So, I mean, I will have them sometime. I just don't know exactly when, but
That's okay. That's okay. Well, thank you so much. You have an amazing weekend and a happy summer, and I wish you all the best with this book.
Thank you, and thank you to your family for all of your amazing service. You are awesome and an inspiration.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Michelle.
Everyone for watching. And yes, I know our voices went off, like, her mouth was moving when it shouldn't have been, and it went a little weird. Skype got a little weird, but you know what? I'm not redoing it because it was such an amazing interview, and it cleared up at times, and that's what happens with Skype. I don't know what to say. So, I'm so happy that I got to talk to her. Go get this book. If you're going to the beach, pick it up, go get it. You're going to love it. So thank you, Kristy. All the links will be listed below.